Hello, my friends. This is part 3 in a 3-part series on seeing the frequency that is strongest in the sky for a person at any given time period. That frequency that's created between the planets at any given time in the sky, called the transiting planets, and the natal chart. And in the first 2 videos in this series, we went into considerable detail in the chart of Donald Trump. Now I'm going to give you one more example of my own chart by doing an actual person who, yourself or a friend or someone you're consulting with. You really can get inside the energy flow and understand it much better. Often with celebrities or famous people, we're just getting the surface of it because we don't know everything that's going on in their lives. So this gives them more like feeling of where the rubber meets the road, the actual experience of what goes on with these transits. So let's just see what's going on in my chart right now. So here I am in the Sirius software. There's my birth chart. And we might say, gee, what's going on for this guy right now? Usually we bring up the timeline format. Timeline format is still my primary way to see what's going on. And we look at the progress to natal, progress to progress, solar arc to natal, and the transits, and we see these, whatever is going on for the person. Now we have this additional technique for finding some other specific things that are happening. We also have the astro signature forecast that we use for a lot of things, as well as a bunches of other things. But these are some of the primary ones. So let's try this new feature for finding out what vibration is very strong right now. I go to forecast and vibrational astro forecast listings. I've already shown this to you in the first 2 parts of the series, so I'm going to go quickly and dive right into the planetary configurations and begin interpreting them. So I'm going to run it for the current month of June 2023. I'm making this video on June 13th, 2023. So let me just see what's going on in the current month. I set it to 1 month, starting on June 1st, 2023. And there's the 4 and the 14. 4, maximum orb, 14 days, minimum number of days. As I mentioned in the first 2 videos in the series, this shows you the really big things. I have nothing in early June. On June 9th, we start a Saturn, Venus, Mercury, transiting Saturn to natal Venus and Mercury. Starts off with the allowable orb. I have a 4 degrees, goes down to 1 degree and stops at 1 degree orb on June, if we look at this, June 12th, right here, 1 degree, transiting Saturn, Venus, Mercury. And it looks like Venus and Mercury are probably separated by 1 degree. Transiting Saturn moves right in between them and stays there in between for a long time, all the way up to June 22nd. So there is a huge Saturn, Venus, Mercury emphasis in 75 vibration. More specifically, transiting Saturn, activating my Mercury and Venus in 75 vibe. This is a very loud, clear, strong signal. We're going to get a visualization of it, and then we're going to interpret it. Let's see when it ends. It ends on June 25th. That's within the very narrow 4 degree orb. So super strong throughout that time period. It just started a few days ago, June 9th. I'm up here on the 13th right now. So this thing is just starting up. It's already gone to this very powerful point of 1 degree orb today. And very, very tight. Oh my goodness, 1 degree all the way up to 22nd. Then it moves out of orb pretty quickly. Wow. What does it mean? Well, first, you don't have to do this when you're interpreting. You don't have to take all the time to do this. But just for us to understand it, what's going on in the sky. And also, if you ever do want to go into great detail, this helps. What is this? Looking at the BiWheel. Let's look at the BiWheel to understand more clearly what this is. What does it mean that Saturn's in 75 vibe to Venus and Mercury with this tight orb? Well, what we'll do is I pulled up the transits. This is actually for yesterday. I started making these videos last night, June 12th. It doesn't matter because it's last several weeks anyway. And I created a 25 vibe of the transits. Why 25? I think you should know by now, because 75 equals 25 times 3. You can take those two numbers, and one can be the vibration and the other aspect. 3 means trine, so we should see trines in the 25 vibe chart between transiting Saturn and my natal Mercury and Venus. So now we make the BiWheel. We do this from the transit chart because we can use the chart adjust feature to move our current entry, which is the transit chart, and see it move if we want to. So where is transiting Saturn in this chart? If we go around, we see it right here, 29 Leo. Where, 29 Leo 49, where is my Mercury and Venus? Up here, 29 Aries 53 and 0 Taurus 07. Wow, look at how tight that is. I have a Mercury-Venus conjunction with a 14-minute orb. Saturn is trying that Mercury-Venus conjunction. At 29:49, the biggest orb here is 18 minutes from transiting Saturn to natal Mercury. Extremely tight configuration. If we do it in 75 vibration, they will all appear as conjunct, and the orbs will be 3 times longer. If you're familiar with vibrational astrology, that's pretty straightforward. But for our purposes right now, what you really need to know, and it's most important, is you can see 75 vibe as trines in 25, because it's 3 times 25. It's nice to see it that way, because you'll see exactly what's going on. My Mercury and Venus are actually in 25 vibe. Saturn's coming in, making a trine to that. And that trine we call 75. 25 times 3 is 75. Basically, what's going on here is I have a very strong Mercury-Venus 25 vibe. Saturn is trining it. All of this in 25 vibe. The transits are 25 vibe, the natal is 25 vibe. What does it mean? Well, Mercury-Venus means literary thinking. It means intelligence. It means the ability to explain things in colorful language, in descriptive language, to have a sense of the beauty in the ideas. It's great for any kind of art, literature, communications, theory, psychology. Most of the thinking we do involves a sense of aesthetics, of the attraction of the ideas. It's not dry, boring, abstract knowledge. Sometimes we get that. They have the phrase when you were a kid, Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. It's just like a bunch of data. But what's more interesting and more exciting to people is Mercury-Venus. You might be able to visualize Columbus going out on those boats and storms coming and wars happening, etc. The story, the beautiful interaction, the way we experience it, that's what Mercury-Venus is about. 25 vibe means the ability to share creative ideas, curiosity. So 25 vibe Mercury-Venus means let's share the fun, the excitement of exploring, of discovering, of new literature, new ideas, new insights, communication, videos. What am I doing right now? A video with chart wheels, with some aesthetics, with some interest in communicating ideas in an attractive, compelling way. So the video itself is Mercury-Venus. What am I doing? I'm sharing it 25. This is 25 vibration heaven to be bringing into our world. You might say a platform, a venue, a way of life in which we can explore, create, discuss, and become interested in ideas that are just compelling and attractive to us. So Saturn is transiting that. Saturn means let's get it right. Let's get it down. Saturn is not this big, bad malefic that obstructs everything. Saturn says, let's get real. Let's get serious. Let's do something that will last. Let's not do something just frivolous and fun. I shouldn't say just frivolous and fun. Nothing wrong with frivolous and fun. That's Jupiter's domain. To have fun and expand and not worry about the details. Saturn's domain is, what's the point of it all? What's the point of all of this creative exploration and interesting ideas if it doesn't have some real impact, if it doesn't reach people, if it doesn't change the world in some positive, real way? So when Saturn trines my Mercury Venus, I get fixated, I get highly motivated to take what I'm communicating and sharing in these video land, in the land of you might say a more dramatic and beautiful way. I'm not saying my videos are beautiful, they're not particularly beautiful, but you have to interpret within the context of a person's life, within the parameters of what's possible for a person, within the range of things that they will experience. Not everybody is a great writer or author, artist. Within the range of that person's experiences, what would Saturn trine Mercury Venus, transiting Saturn, trine the natal Mercury Venus, all in 25 vibe means? It would mean, for example, I do a little bit of songwriting, things like that, making the videos. And Saturn saying, let's get it down, let's get it real, let's get something that's lasting, let's get something that's important, let's get something that has a fundamental, essential impact. Let's not be sloppy about it. So consequently, I didn't go to my music, which is much more just a fun thing that doesn't have any great impact in the world. I go to my videos and I get really extremely motivated to get this right. And what I did was, let's see, I don't think I have the page up here. Okay, I'll have to drag this over just 1 second. I got really carried away starting right around June 9th when this thing became extremely strong with, actually, I think it started a little bit before then. It's been the whole last week. But as we got into that extremely tight 4-degree orb that's in the listing, here's what happened. When you go to astrologydc.com and you click on this button for links to YouTube member videos, I went wild. I spent hours after hour after hour adding 100 more videos, adding these subject titles, making it nicer and easier to relate to so that when you put your cursor on this one, these videos show up close that before they were at the top. I didn't have these titles. As I added 100 more videos, now there's over 400 videos here that are for members only. I got inspired to focus on getting this out there. Now I've got a lot of other projects, the software development, the research, etc. But when the Mercury Venus in 25 vibe gets that trine from Saturn, it says, what about your videos, not your technical stuff with, new formulas and, validating things with statistics and all this stuff. That's just Mercury Saturn land. Your Mercury Venus is highlighted now in 25 vibe. David, you're not just a nerd. You've got these creative, interesting, compelling, attractive things going on. This website page is kind of pretty, if I don't say so myself. And it's fun and it's engaging. This is the Mercury Venus 25 vibe, part of me. We all have different sides and potentials. Saturn comes in and says, do the work. Get down to it. Hour after hour. It's like very tedious. Getting this out, getting this information into a final form. This is the final form. I've gone through different ways of doing this. It was publicly open to everybody, and I had a membership on my website, blah, blah, blah. I realized this is the one. This is the way I'm going to present it using the YouTube memberships. There you go, my friends. The Saturn trining my Mercury Venus, and this becomes the focus. And according to the listing here, let's go back to my chart and reselect this report. This gets ultra strong around June 9th and lasts all the way to June 25th. Today's the 13th. That's another week and a half. I got other things I'm supposed to be doing. I can't sit here and play with making these videos and improving this. I got, a bunch of different things bombarding me that I'm waiting for. But honestly, I just really want to just do this for the next week. I just would like to take another 100 of the videos, organize it better, get this down, get this platform to the next level. And now I'm making series of 2 and 3 videos each week, really developing the 25 Mercury Venus with the Saturn trine, get it down, get it refined, get it perfected, get it so it will last and last and last into the future. So the things that you become engaged with, that come into view, they're out there. I could have done this before, but they just come into view that you engage with them. That's what these transits show. Very, very cool. And it's showing that this is where your strength is. If I do this now, as I've been doing it, I'm doing it much faster, much cleaner, much better than I would at other times. At certain times, a certain talent, a certain connection happens that isn't there at other times. This is the time when I can elevate this service. Let me bring it back here to remind us what I'm talking about. This whole thing of hundreds of videos. So, most of us are not, on some dramatic thing changing the world every day. When you're consulting someone, the time that person took to take some time off to paint or do their yoga or, invest into something or whatever it is that they've taken time to spend more time doing some kind of helping work for disadvantaged people. It may not be earth-shaking, change the world, but that's that person's life. This is my life. For me, this is my Saturn trining my Mercury, Venus, and 25 vibe. That's it. Very, very cool how we can see what comes into view, what becomes a focus for the person. So let's go back to the listing. Go back to the Sirius software. Now, what do we do next? Okay, that was cool. We saw that. What we do next, as I showed in the first 2 videos, is we can bring the orb smaller. We can go down to 12 degrees, 10 degrees. Well, I'll just do it slowly. Sometimes I jump from 14 to 10, but it comes up so quickly, I could just go down and see, well, I'm not seeing much change. That's why I often go down, all the way down to, say, 10 degrees. This is going, not 10 degrees, sorry, 10 days. These still 4-degree orb. These are things that are not as long lasting, but equally powerful. Things that rise up, peak, and come down quicker. Something that's strong for 3, 4, up to 10 days. So, not as long lasting, but still very important. And if we look at, say, today, June 12th, June 13th, no change. Still just the 75 vibe. No weaker, no shorter, more short-term things are coming into focus. We're seeing that the upcoming, it's mainly that 75 vibe. Getting into the 21st of June, there's this 35 vibe, which is out at the around 4 degrees. So it's picking up that. And that's a shorter term. That 35 vibe starts on the 21st and ends, it does go all the way to the end of the month. Let's even go smaller. Let's go down to 8 degrees. I find when you go down to about 8 degrees, you usually start picking up more things. And let's see what happens for me. Well, right now it's still just the 75 vibe. But further in the future, also still not a whole lot more. There's a 35 vibe. Let's go down to 6 days minimum. These are things that are active for a little bit less than a week. And now we start to see a whole bunch of new things. So on June 13th, today, we're seeing also a 64 vibe. We're seeing a 100 vibe, a 121 vibe. So additional things are going on. And for example, to give an idea of what it means, transiting Pluto to my moon Neptune in 64 vibe. I have a moon Neptune getting activated by Pluto. Very dreamy, very passionate, very much wanting to go into a soulful place because I have the moon Neptune. Pluto's activating it. And this is interesting. The 75 vibe was the one that I was talking about. There's also a 100 vibe. That's very similar. 75 is 5 times 5 times 3. There's also a 5 times 5 times 4 that involves transiting Neptune. This means I can go back and look at my 25 vibe chart. There's a huge thing going on with my 25 vibe. Huge. I've got the Saturn at my trining my Mercury Venus. We looked at that. Transiting Saturn, trine my Mercury Venus in 25 vibe. This is saying that Neptune is also involved with the Mercury Venus. It doesn't last 2 weeks. It lasts, 6, 7, 8 days, something like that. But it's very powerful, 1 degree orb today. Tomorrow, 2 degree orb. Next day, 3 degree orb. See that it's moving quite fast. So let's go back to my 25 vibe. Let's go back to the transits. 25 vibe, BiWheel. This is exactly what we were looking at before. Remember I said that transiting Saturn, very, very tightly trying my Mercury Venus? That listing is telling me transiting Neptune is also there, and there it is. Transiting Neptune, 0 Aquarius 01, right there as well. Wow. And also what this is saying is that the Neptune takes only about a week. Neptune will be there for about a week, very tightly squaring the Mercury Venus. The Saturn trine the Mercury Venus is there longer. Why would Saturn, which is a slower planet than Neptune, last longer? Because Saturn stations, and right now it's going slow. So this is tremendous because there's 2 transiting planets activating 2 natal planets. Transiting Saturn, trine the Mercury Venus. Neptune square the Mercury. What does Neptune square Mercury Venus and 25 vibe mean? That's poetry. That's inspiration. Maybe I should pick up my guitar, but that Saturn, and make up some new lyrics and stuff. Actually, I have done that. I usually do it about once a week, and I've done it a little bit more in the last few days, and it's been kind of growing on me. Probably over these next few days, I'll be doing it a little bit more. But that Saturn trine, that's just fun stuff I do for myself. Nobody ever hears it. What the Saturn trine to that Mercury Venus is longer lasting. When it's longer lasting, it's deeper. It gets into you stronger. And I'm feeling like I can't just fiddle around. I've got the opportunity to get this down, get this done. And I want to do it while do it while the iron is hot. That's the feeling of these transits. I feel it now. I can do it. But the Neptune and Mercury Venus has encouraged me to say, put your imagination, your vision, your dream into this. Don't make it overly technical, overly dry. Neptune's trying to really bring out the creative spirit and share that, and the vision and the dream that's involved. So this is what you can do with this listing. The whole point of this video is to get you to have a sense, get you more confident that you can use this feature. Let's go back to my natal chart and bring up that listing and see that these things are going on. And then, as I mentioned in the second video in this series, and I'll mention it again here, a fun thing to do is do 3 and 4. Minimum orb of 3 degrees. These are like super, ultra strong. All 3 planets within 3 degrees. these are in vibrational charts, and things get spread out very quickly. We allow 16-degree orbs. So anyways, 3 degrees is very tight, and it can go by very quickly, maybe in 4 days. Sometimes I do 3-5, 3-3, somewhere in there. So 3 and 4 is a good choice to see things that might be very fast, but very strong. And we've already noticed the slow ones. But let's see if there's anything shorter duration right now on June 13th. That's 75 and 100 we already saw. And we also saw that. It's just highlighting that those are particularly strong. No additional things. Yesterday there was the 121 vibe. But I'm not going to go into all this. You got the idea. That 121 vibe was the 9th through the 12th. Transiting Neptune to my moon Saturn. So anyway, that would be another thing that went on for a few days. The things that go on for at least 2 weeks, and let me show you again. I start with 4-14. It's just there's nothing sacred about those numbers, but they work out pretty well. 4 and 14, that's the big stuff. Then you can narrow down to things that are faster or even tighter. You can also look at things that are weaker. The only reason I don't look at things that are weaker, like if I go out to 8 degrees and 8 days, let's see what happens. 7 days, 1 week. So these would be, they're still solid. They're within 8 degrees and last at least a week. I'm not sure, but I think, that's what I wasn't sure, but I thought. Look how long the list is. Oh my God. Every day there's like 20 things going on. Look at it. 20 or 30 things. It's too much. I don't know what to do with all this. I don't know how to process that. That's why I don't use that setting. I keep the orbs small to just pick up the really exact ones. It's like a signal to noise ratio. Is that there are all these vibrations going on, and I want to just see the really, really conspicuous ones. And so the procedure that I've given you helps you do that. I had to tinker around and fumble around for quite a while before I could settle on how to use this. Because when I first did it, I saw these huge lists like this one, and I wasn't sure what to do. But playing around, I got the idea of what I'm looking at. I could relate it to my life. I could look at other people and could see how this is really useful. So there it is, my friends. 3-part series on this new tool to see when vibrations become conspicuous and clear and powerful and motivate you in certain directions. And as I said in the part 1, and I think it was part 2, somewhere back there in this 3-part series, that these transits show how you engage in the world. They don't show this just happens to you from out of nowhere. They also don't show what you're making up in your mind. They're showing the interface of what you're experiencing and what you are inclined to decide in the way you want to engage in it. And if you turn on the power of what you see, let's go back to the 4 and 14. The really, really big stuff. If you attune yourself to what this is saying, for me, fortunately, I did start doing it. I had other things calling me, but I said, I need to do this. And as I did it, I said, oh my God, this is great. I love this. It was coming out so good. So when you do the energy that's coming in, it doesn't always come out so beautifully, but usually it does, number one. And number two, it's the most meaningful and important thing. You won't regret it. You realize that this was right. This is what's coming to the foreground. And when you do what that energy's calling you to do, you do it better at that time. If I was to work on this website page here, which I've been working on ever since that Saturn trying my Mercury-Venus in 25 vibe, I wouldn't have done it as quickly. I wouldn't have been as motivated. I wouldn't have been as excited about it. I wouldn't have been marveling at how nice it looks, how well it works, how this is going to click for people. because that's the transit at the time. These transits can help you tune in to that voice in your head, that instinct that says, this feels like what I can tie into. And it just helped motivate you to do it. So there it is, my friends, that new feature, to the new software tool to see what vibrations become highlighted at different times. What's happening in vibrational astrology is so exciting with the use of new tools and new research. Big group of people all involved in developing this. Very exciting. Okay, that's it, my friends. That's the end of the 3-part series on, let's go back to our title page. Where are we? There, on how to see the strongest transit-to-natal 3-planet patterns at any time. There it is, and I will finish by again saying thank you for being a member. All of you watching this are members. This is a member-only video. Thank you so much. God bless. Namaste.